Good afternoon, traders and investors. It's Will here with another one. Hope you guys had a great day today. We had another nice green day on SPY and QQQ. Not the biggest green day, but green was green with some good market breadth and a few other sectors participating, but led by technology once again. So let's have a look at some charts and see, is this rally sustainable? So let's start off with SPY, right? So SPY, as we can see here, guys, on the daily, I've drawn two yellow lines here denoting my area, which is now support. This was previously a big area of resistance, but as of last Thursday, we were able to push through that and are now using it as support. You'll see why this is significant on the weekly chart, right? This has been a big level in the past, which we've respected a few times prior, and it is our biggest resistance now turn support zone pretty much since the beginning of the year at this point, right? So SPY able to nicely hold above, and a lot of that is coming through from technology, but also due to the fact that financials and healthcare aren't dropping in the same rate that they had been previously. Now, the only thing that did fairly poor today, I'll show you, is actually our consumer cyclicals, otherwise known as consumer discretionary, so things that people don't quite need all the time. That's why they call it discretionary. And our consumer staples, otherwise known as defensive, so the brands that people do tend to go to all of the time. So as you can see, guys, those were our worst performers on the day, with stocks like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, who never really move more than 2% in a day. You know, they were moving over 2% in a day, if you want to see those respectively. Big drop on, look at this candle on Coca-Cola, right? Does not happen that often in the past. You'd be hard pressed to go back since the beginning of the year and find a few days, right, of minus 2%. So it doesn't happen all that often, especially on Pepsi, which has been a very good performer, especially over the past month or two. Well, you know, when they have big red days, for me, I look, has something significantly changed in the sector, or is it just rotation? In my opinion, at this point, it is just rotation. We were getting fairly extended on a lot of these names away from our 12 weekly moving average. As you can see on Pepsi, something like that, I wouldn't be too worried. We're just looking for a higher low. Anything above pretty much this area down here would be that higher low. Names like Coca-Cola as well. Names like Coca-Cola, we are just kind of tightening up here. So tons of space. Wouldn't be too worried about this name either. So those are our two worst performers on the day. Obviously, technology with another very green day for the most part, right? With Google and Meta kind of leading the way here. Microsoft and Apple kind of counterbalancing each other, so not too much to see there. And we had some decent performance from a few of our semiconductors here as well. Financials as well is kind of mixed, so I'll show you that, guys, a bit later. But in my opinion here, SPY is looking very bullish. We are still looking for our daily higher low. Anything above 410 will be our daily higher low. Could be a very good possibility of a daily bull flag forming here. And now we have this big area which is acting as support. So bulls do have some good support down there. The time frame that I'm looking for, guys, is the 4-hour time frame, right? Big move up. This area right down here could very well be our 4-hour higher low, right? So now we're looking for, can bulls keep pushing higher to confirm, or do we potentially continue and tighten up like this on the 4-hour, which would lead to a daily bull flag? Obviously bullish pattern for continuation. QQQ, so technology, another huge day for technology. Well, not huge, but huge in the sense that, I mean, guys, at this point, right, over the past like 2 weeks, we've barely had any significant pullbacks that resulted in further drawdowns, right? So at this point, we are still looking for our daily higher low. In my opinion, anything above 325 at this point, this level right here, will be our higher low. As you can see, we blasted through the rising wedge. I'm leaving this pattern there just in case we do retest the top end of this channel right here, which would be kind of my next line that I'm looking for some support on this market. You can see, guys, that it is coinciding right now with our 12 EMA, which is very good on the daily time frame. Resistance to the upside at this point has to be targeting this zone up here, up between the 355 to 360 on the weekly. So still some room to move. The immediate resistances, however, there's really nothing much before our 349, 350 area. So that's target number 1 right here. And I would put target number 2 up around 370-ish, which would be very high. But obviously we have to get to here first. It is kind of looking slightly extended. I wouldn't be surprised if technology does potentially cool down and leave the way to a few other sectors which have kind of been underperforming, just to get that sector rotation, guys, within the SPY. As soon as you see sector rotation, you know that the market is healthy. That's exactly what we want to see, right? Technology can't be our lead bull all the time, or it's just not healthy. You need to see other industries take over when technology wants to take a breather. So we are a bit frothy here on the daily RSI, on the QQQs. As you can see, 4-hour is still overbought, and right now, what we're kind of doing, right, is you're kind of seeing some, if I can just move this, you're kind of seeing some bearish divergence, right? So we have higher highs on the market potentially and lower highs here on the RSI. So that is usually a bearish pattern. It doesn't mean that the rug's going to be pulled from under us. It just means that, you know, the potential for a pullback is there. So the time frame I'm looking out for will be this 4-hour chart. Can we confirm this as a higher low, or do we double top and roll over? If we do roll over, we're looking for daily consolidation, like I said, right around this 330 area, top of this channel. That will be very, very healthy. Anything above 325 pretty much at this point is going to be that higher low. So bulls are in full control at this point of the weekly time frame, as you can see, of the daily time frame as well. So that's why my time frame that I'm using as guide is my 4-hour on QQQ. Now, Russell has been actually doing a very good job, guys. As you remember, I pretty much started this channel, right around here. And I have been preaching ever since around here that we will get some movement in the growth names. This is the sector, guys, that has been underperforming the larger market. We're still down 27% on the year. If you compare that to QQQ, right? QQQ is only down 17%, and SPY is only down at this point probably around 12%. So QQQ is roughly underperforming. I mean, IWM is underperforming the market by double. So that is some significant underperformance here on the part of the growth names. It's normal, though, when you talk about the banking crisis and the recession fears later in the year. Well, the risk on trade isn't the first trade that the institutional funds tend to go to. They only tend to take this trade when macro negative elements get taken off the table, right? So when we get risk off the table, they go risk on, and IWM names are your first ones. And the largest component of this pretty much is your regional banks. And as you can see, guys, over the past 4 or 5 days here, we've done some real good movement on the regional banks, up 12% in the past 5 trading days. So that's really, really significant. And it's coming into our IWM. So we're still kind of trapped here within this tightening range, but I'm looking for a break here of around 180. If we see a break of 180, that'll give me some very, very good confidence that a weekly uptrend will potentially be in motion. I want to see something like this come back, sit on 180, confirm, and then launch, right? That would be a confirmed weekly uptrend. At this point, you can argue that it already is a confirmed weekly uptrend, but it's very ugly, right? The higher lows aren't that significant in my opinion. So it is kind of still a tightening range here. So we're really looking for the daily breakout. So the level for me is our 180 level up here, pretty much right here with this yellow line is. I need to see bulls do that. And the time frame that I'm watching, even though the 4-hour is interesting, I really need to see this on the daily at this point. I need to see some conviction from the bulls. So it's running away now from the lower end of my range where I loved writing puts. But if it does do something like this at this point, I never want to be writing something at the higher end of a range before it breaks it. I want to see a break and then retest, and then I'll be writing options in this scenario here. So I'm not touching IWM for the most part, but if you guys want to see, right, I have a list of a lot of growth names that move a lot, names with high implied volatility, usually for options chains. And as you can see, guys, the worst performers on the day down here, you have like Nike, Lululemon, well, Cloudflare is also a growth name, so I'm not going to include that. But Nike, Lulu, Amazon Monster, which is a very, very solid company, also down on the day. Visa, Apple, right, TSM. So a lot of names down, but not down too much. But look at the outperformance here at this point by growth. Lemonade, a company that's gotten beaten down into the floor, right? Putting in very, very, very strong days, right? It's now over up 67%. Now I realize 67% in the grand scheme of things compared to this chart isn't much, but it's something, right? The bulls are creating space on a lot of these names for a potential weekly lower high whenever they do consolidate. Neo in kind of the same position, right? If you look on the daily here today, it kind of broke up. It wants to set that daily uptrend, right? 9% on Neo. Coinbase as well with a heavy green day. Lucid, Rivian, Affirm, right? Affirm, another beaten down stock. Affirm is now up, pretty much since earnings right here, also up around 62%. So they're trying to create the space so that the most likely scenario becomes a potential higher low here. They want to close above these moving averages as well. So I will be heavily looking into a risk on trade upon our move topping out and our downtrend here. I want to see the higher lows being set, and I will be making a play potentially off the higher lows on some of these names. Tesla also with another beautiful day today. We'll get into that later. So that's for IWM. Dow Jones, I pretty much covered this already, right? We were saying that the value names for the most part were down today, mostly led by our consumer cyclicals here. So our consumer discretionary and our consumer staples here. So they're the ones that pretty much led the Dow Jones to the downside. Not too much to talk about there. Dow Jones is still trying to form its weekly higher low compared to down here. As soon as they set that, it's looking pretty good now because we're rejecting off the moving averages. Again, we're really tightening up, guys, on the lower time frames. We're tightening up. So we really want to see this weekly bull flag be confirmed. At this point, the most likely scenario for me is a weekly confirmation of the bull flag. It's kind of looking like an inverse head and shoulders, right? Bullish pattern. So I wouldn't be objected to getting into some of these value names. And actually I have, and we'll get into that in a bit when I go over the trades that I've been taking today. Well, a couple value names are on deck. So Bitcoin doing absolutely nothing. I know a lot of people on crypto Twitter are kind of frustrated at this point with how little crypto is moving. But at this point, we are still, if on the grand scheme of things, I wish I had a 2-week chart, but this would still be a weekly bull flag, technically speaking, right? So we're not able to push any higher or lower at this point for the past 3 weeks. It's been very, very frustrating for people in crypto. People don't like to see crypto consolidate in very, very tight ranges. You want to see crypto move. So what I think is that crypto just does not have enough liquidity from the institutions. It does not have enough institutional support, the same that it had 2-3 years ago. This is why the price, it's very, very hard for them to move price in a significant fashion. However, the levels to watch out for me at this point really become the low of this flush right here on the week of May 8th, right? So 25, that right about 26,000, right? 25.8 to 26,000 are the levels that I'm looking out for. If we breach down below here, it's not going to be looking good. You really want to hold as high as possible in this weekly bull flag. Any further consolidation into the 25s, there is support here with our moving averages and our support zone here. If I were to draw a trusty yellow line right here, you can see that it has been, the 25 area has been support and resistance in the past, but you kind of don't want to get down there. Why? Because I'll draw the fib on it, right? From this move up all the way to this move down, right? Around the 25 line would be over 50%. So I'm not saying that's bad because obviously markets can go to 50% and then still rally after, but you really want to see them hold the 382, which is what they're bouncing off now, because that's the area usually that if bulls get a rebound, you can say that a likely scenario becomes a move to the high. The further that they drop in this, right, then the most likely scenario becomes an extended tightening range, which is not what people want to see. So if you're bullish and you think that we're about to make another move towards these highs, they need to hold the current levels. And the time frame that I'm watching, guys, is the 4-hour. They have not been able to confirm a successful 4-hour uptrend now in a while, right? So now it's been pretty much for the past week and a half, pretty much, we have not been able to confirm anything like that on the 4-hour, right? So as you can see, we're still struggling on the daily, really struggling with this tightening range. I need to see a break above here. I need to see a break above 27.5 on the 4-hour. What that's going to look like is something like this, right? We need to set at this point, they've bounced a significant amount. We need to start setting some higher highs and higher low patterns, and your 4-hour trend needs to start trending to the upside before even looking to the daily. Daily level for me is 27,500. To the downside, this remains my line in the sand level. If they break this, we're going down to 25. And my thesis for continuation could possibly change from a move to a top here back to 30,005, 31,000. If we do go to 25, in my opinion, the most likely scenario then just becomes a tightening range instead of just potential V shape and smash through for another weekly leg up. I'm not going to go into the other cryptos, guys, because Bitcoin dominance is still off the charts. If you want to for me to take a quick look, right? So we're still completely uptrending on Bitcoin dominance. So it's of no purpose for me to go through this entire list of cryptos when Bitcoin is your lead bull or lead bear, right? We need Bitcoin to make the move first. And when we have the move from Bitcoin, then we can look at tying into some lagging names potentially. So that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. Let's get into some of our big tech names for now. So looking at Apple, Apple is an absolute monster in my opinion, right? So Friday came down. Today we had another day, pretty much a gap down day today on Apple, which is not something you see very often, right? In the pre-market, gap down, and then buyers did a good job of bringing it back all the way through after hours at this point. So very, very interesting move on Apple, right? The reason it's shaded red is because we are in our resistance area that I've been targeting now for a while, right? This whole area here is very, very, very congested, right? It's a big resistance area. If we can break through our 176 area, which we haven't been able to do so far, the next target now becomes pretty much 180 on the top end. So what bulls are doing is they're doing a great job of grinding this 12 EMA higher. As you can see, we are potentially setting a daily higher low. Anything above 170.5 pretty much is going to be your daily higher low. So bulls doing a good job of maintaining that. To the upside, we're looking for a break of 176 for continuation. To the downside, my line in the sand is 170.5. On the weekly chart, what could you expect? Well, if bulls smash through, we're going to get a further weekly push into potentially the 180 area. If the bulls somehow fail, we will just be looking for a weekly consolidation. In my opinion, anything above 165 is going to be a weekly higher low. Very good, because we do have the downtrending previous channel as support down there, and we also have our 12-week moving average down there. So if bulls were to give up a bit, well, the Apple bulls would just be looking for a weekly higher low. So we are in full control of the weekly and the daily time frame at this point. So unfortunately, bears not able to do anything to this chart. But if you're a bulls, congratulations on the gains. So Microsoft in the same situation pretty much, grinding higher. Look how much space we've put between us and the 12 EMA right now. The weekly RSI is starting to get a little bit frothy here, in my opinion. The resistance levels on the weekly, you have to be looking above 330 at this point, 335, 338, right up in these tops right here, right? So how I potentially see this playing out is two ways. Either we're going to continue grinding up higher, or we're going to have to wait for our daily move to top out. We've created a lot of space now to where anything above 306 will be a daily higher low, but not only that, also pretty much a weekly higher low. So you can kind of judge this as one big weekly move. I'll actually retract that statement. It'll be a daily higher low, but on the weekly, there's still a ton of space. I still think that this is the same weekly move all the way through. So pretty much anything above 276 will just be a higher low. Good support down here, right? So if we do come down here to potentially to reset here on the daily time frame to find previous support, well, that may just be us setting our weekly higher low potentially, and it would be needed. I mean, these charts kind of do need a cool down, so that's what I'm looking for, guys. On Microsoft, I want to see a pullback into this area. If we do pull back into this area, I will be interested in writing some puts, potentially anywhere below 300. But for now, it's a bit too high for me. If you are holding this stock, congratulations. Upside targets are in the 230s now at this point. But if you're looking for an area where potentially we can get somewhat of a reload, I'll be looking in the low 300s for price to come down into there potentially for some consolidation. And I will be writing options anywhere 300 range and below on Microsoft. Meta throwing us up a very, very bearish doji candle to end the day, right? So Meta started off kind of really, really bullish on the day early in the morning with some really good news. And we kind of gave it back all throughout the day. But that's good, because if you look on the daily time frame, it looks, the candle formation doesn't look too good. But when you break it down, right, what does this candle do? This candle broke our previous area of resistance, pretty much that was sitting at 248, 249. And what do we do, guys? We basically just broke it, cooled down the lower time frames, and now we're sitting on previous resistance as support. And you can see the reaction here, end of day into the after hours. holding the 12 EMA to the upside, using our support levels. So bulls are still actually in full control on this chart. Weekly time frame is looking like Microsoft, right? It's kind of just looking like this one big giant move up. And I can understand that because Meta was undervalued for a considerable amount of time. So it stands to argue that a lot of people were liquidating their positions down here. And now we do potentially have a bit of FOMO thinking that they may have missed the rally on Meta. So as you can see, weekly RSI still is overbought, which is why I don't like touching this stock up here. For me personally, I'm going to be looking for a potential daily low if it happens. I'm not saying it has to happen. Obviously, our lower time frames are going to be our guide. But if we do get some daily consolidation, well, I'm going to be looking for our 230 area to act as support, a general support area at this point, right? I'm going to be looking for a weekly higher low compared to 230. 230 is the line in the sand level for me on this chart. I'm going to be looking for a higher low above that because if we do come down to 230, I want to be potentially writing some puts in the lower 200s here for a potential gap fill. If we go down and fill the gap, I would like to pick up some Meta. Depending how fast it comes here, we could reverse all of this bullish overbought, could become oversold or close to oversold on the RSI if we do come down relatively fast here for XYZ reason. So I'm going to be looking for confluence, right? I'm going to be looking, if I draw a circle here, guys, you'll see, right? Look at my circle on the daily. This is the gap fill. On the weekly, that would be your convergence of the moving averages, right? So we have the 12 is kind of down here, and we have the 200 week moving average down here with a very large area of support, horizontal support as well here. So very, very good level for me. For me, that's my level to watch if I'm going to open some positions on Meta to the long side. For now, just kind of sitting on the sidelines and watching. Congratulations to the bulls. At this point, levels to the upside, guys. I mean, there's not much data because it becomes the gap fill, right? So you really have to be watching the series of higher highs and higher lows on the daily time frame to see when they're going to top out. If you see something like this and fail below, that's your first weekly downtrend, first daily downtrend in a while. So that's what you have to kind of look out for, right? Now, moving into Google. Google, another great one on the day, guys. So congratulations to any Google bulls. I'll pat myself on the back because I have been accumulating a lot of Google stock in the lower areas here. I have started to be writing some covered calls on it because I do feel that this move is kind of extended here. If I zoom in here a bit, you'll see on the RSI, we are relatively high here. What's the number on the RSI? We must be in the 80s. We are pretty much 81 on the RSI on the daily time frame. So it wouldn't surprise me if Google does need to take a slight breather here soon, but it's good. We've created so much space. The line for me now is around 116. Anything above 116 for me is just a daily higher low. It does potentially need some consolidation on the weekly as well, right? We're not overbought, but you can see this is a very big move. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do get a bit of consolidation. But what's good here, guys, is we have this whole area now. Look, if I draw a yellow line here, we have this whole area right now that's going to be acting as support. We've smashed through this entire zone here. Very, very, very important zone. Smashed through it. Now we can use it as resistance. So that'll be a very, very big area to watch. So if I zoom in here a little bit, you'll be watching for the 122 all the way down to 120 area. And if we do start pulling down into here, I would not be opposed to writing some puts below or at my 116 level for further continuation. I do believe Google at this point has the legs to make it back up to our 135 to 140 range here. It is kind of undervalued relative to SPY. If you look here, the price to earnings now on a trailing basis, which is including gap, is about 28. But if you look at Google on a forward PE basis, it's about 17. So that's really, really good. Pretty undervalued in my opinion compared to SPY, which is trading at a roughly around 25 forward. So that's pretty good. In terms of valuation, Google still also, roughly at this point, 17% off the highs. Not as good as it was a few weeks ago, right, guys? 30%. They've really done a massive move, which is why I am potentially looking for some consolidation. And if we do get some consolidation, guys, as I said before, I will be a buyer. Why? Because buyers are in full control of the larger time frames at this point. We are confirming at this point that we're going to set a monthly higher low eventually. And I think that this is the new monthly uptrend, guys. I really think it's the new monthly uptrend. We've put in so much space that I would be so surprised, guys, if we flush to lower lows. In my mind, at this point, I don't think that's possible. So I'm trading based off the fact that when we do consolidate off the monthly, the most likely scenario will be just a higher low at this point to resume a new bull trend on Google for the foreseeable future. So that's why I'm looking for a pullback here on the short term. Now, Amazon. Amazon is the only one, guys, that's lagging. Why? I've said this in previous videos. Their free cash flow, right? Their free cash flow. Their margins are now returned to being negative. As you can see, very, very, very thin over the past couple of years. Why? I'll explain it to you. They have been putting up so much capital to expand their retail and warehousing business, but also making heavy investments in technology for their server hosting businesses and cloud businesses, guys, right? So they have been outlaying significant amount of cash, like ridiculous amounts of cash, which is why their profits have kind of dwindled, right? It's their operating expenses. Their operating expenses have kind of been fairly stable, but it's really their one-time expenses that they've been making in the past 2 years are huge, and they won't have to make these forever. So in my opinion, Amazon will be a very good buy for the next few years, because once they get through these and they start putting up some better free cash flow numbers, they will be a favorite once again. But for now, kind of left behind. They are the only main tech stock, in my opinion, that has now been left behind, that is now kind of trailing the massive rally that all the other ones have had. On a percentage basis, you can say they've rallied about the same from the bottom as a lot of other ones, but from the all-time highs, guys, we're still about 38%. The only one that comes to mind maybe is Meta, potentially. Meta 35. What about Netflix? Netflix, yeah, Netflix is probably our biggest loser here still, right? Okay, so but out of the big tech names, right? Basically, Amazon and Netflix are still the ones with the most amount of room to move to the upside. I like this stock at these price levels. The bulls have done a great job of showing us that they do want to confirm the bullish move. So we have confirmed now at this point a weekly uptrend. Anything pretty much above here will just be looking for a weekly higher low. I'm looking for, I'll tell you, my line in the sand levels for me at this point is 109, 110 area right here. So 109.41 if you want to get very specific. I always give a range, guys, because location means nothing. It's all about how hard it pulls down into it, right? So I'm looking for anything above this just to be a daily higher low. And as well, at this point, as you can see my line, I would love for this to also potentially be a weekly higher low, because that would be very, very nice consolidation. It would allow for the daily time frame to potentially cool down a bit, even though we've had a few big, not big, but relatively negative red days now, 1.6% and 1%. So I'll be looking for the higher low to be set on the daily. If we do pull back further towards our 12 MA, I'm looking to write options below 109. So anywhere in here, very, very interested, because I feel that Google will be able to hold this area. Should we pull back a little bit into here, I don't think that it'll be able to pull back much below 105. So that's why anything like 107, 105 is going to be a very, very interesting range for me to be writing some options, potentially pick up more Amazon shares. Quick disclaimer, I do hold Amazon shares. I've been long Amazon from around anywhere between 105 to around $95 has been my averaging points on Amazon. In this green box pretty much is where I was doing most of my heaviest purchases. So I really like this stock for its potential over the next 2-3 years as they get through their large, as they don't have to do any more large capital expenditures after this. Tesla, favorite stock in the stock market. Why? Because it moves so much, guys. When it does move, it just starts to move big. And as you can see, guys, what we've done now is not only have we filled our previous gap here, but we're now above this entire area, which we can now use as support, right? So this entire area that was causing us so much problems before, well, we're now smashing it through again. 178, let's call this about 180, right? So let's call it 180 flat. 180 is going to be a big area, just as was the 165. Those were the two biggest areas that were causing the most amount of problems here for Tesla in the past 3 months, as you can see. So we're now above this. Are we extended on the daily? No, we're not. We're only extended on the lower time frames 4 hours. But when you guys know Tesla can stay overextended on the RSI on the lower time frames for a while. So at this point, bulls are in absolute full control. Ended the day at the high of the day, right? And this is all after their shareholder presentation when Elon Musk said that they were going to do some advertising after a question from Meet Kevin. And he was also very, very bullish on a few other elements that I've covered in the previous videos, right? So advertising expense, their Model 3 is now on a cost comparison basis as cheap to own as a Toyota Corolla. So that was a very, very interesting piece of news. They're working on 2 new products that they'll be unveiling over the next year. Cybertruck obviously coming in Q3. So a bunch of things were just reiterated and people were just extremely bullish on it because the way that Elon talked about it and the fact that now he's full-time back at Tesla since there's a new Twitter CEO. So a lot of the negativity has been lifted, which is allowing this to run further. So levels for me to watch out for. If we do potentially somehow pull back here, I'm looking for a pullback to our potentially 180 zone. I will be writing options anywhere below 180. The closest that we get, the lower I'll be able to write, 175 to 180. I'm interested in picking up more Tesla stock. For now, I've been accumulating Tesla stock. And you guys know me from the previous videos. I was writing options this entire time down here. So we were getting some very, very juicy premium. I have held long Tesla shares now for the past couple of years. So it's been a very, very good for me that I've been averaging down pretty much this entire time, right? So disclaimer about that, I do hold long Tesla shares, but for options writing, I've been generating some very, very good premium here in the past 3 months. I've almost every week, guys, I have a Tesla option position open because the premium is so good and the levels become somewhat predictable at a certain point. So looking to pull back here, anything under 180 at this point, anything above 180 at this point is remaining bullish, but we've created so much space, guys, that we're now in a daily uptrend. This is going to be a confirmed daily uptrend. There's no doubt in my mind at this point. Now we're just looking for the weekly confirmed uptrend. Wherever this weekly move tops out, we need the bulls to come back here gently, just gently as possible, to confirm a weekly higher low for potentially further upswing that would confirm a first weekly uptrend, since we kind of lost the possibility to do it up here. So this would actually be the first, if we pull it off, something like this, it would actually be the first weekly confirmed uptrend since the drop, because this was not a confirmed weekly uptrend. It was a almost double top at resistance and failed, right? On the monthly, that's where the key lies. It is a monthly higher low, potentially shaping up a monthly trend change. You love to see it, right? Because we've been in a monthly downtrend. So now what are we doing? We're now trying to set up the monthly trend change. So really, really looking forward to how this plays out. If we do set a new monthly trend change here, anything above 220 pretty much, that'll be very, very noteworthy for Tesla. At that point, guys, I mean, the targets to the upside become pretty juicy in my opinion. But for now, one thing at a time. Next resistance level does stay put around 190, 191 up here. And after that, we're all the way back up to 200. Levels to the downside, 180. One stock that I did want to cover, guys, PayPal. PayPal has been one that I've been talking about ever since they got screwed on earnings, in my opinion, right? So this company just underappreciated and at this point, in my opinion, undervalued as well. So I was saying on PayPal, look out for the lower timeframes, right? Because we had a lack of price points data here to find support levels because they're all 6 years old at this point, I was saying wait for the sellers to be exhausted on the lower timeframes. What were we looking for? We were noting that the sellers were getting exhausted. Look at this drop, significant drop, lower, and now you see these few times, the bears tried, but bulls bought it back right away. So as you can see, the significance between each drop is getting smaller and smaller. Bears are less and less able to push the lows. And as you can see, if we zoom in here, guys, when they tried to push early in the day, bought back V-shape. When they tried to push down, bought back V-shape. And now finally, we've been able to confirm at this point a potential hourly uptrend change, right? So what happened here today is significant. This is the first hourly push that could potentially result in an hourly trend change. It's looking like an hourly trend change at this point, right? We've now kind of confirmed a higher low intraday here and pushing, closing near the high, up in after hours above. So remains to be seen what's going to happen with PayPal tomorrow. If we can put in another green day, that'll be hourly trend change confirmed. Now you zoom out, look on the 4 hour. 4 hour, big move off the bottom, guys. So our low is now 60.6, line in the sand level for me. Anything above that will be a 4 hour higher low. What I'm looking for is when bulls top out, can they then confirm a 4 hour trend change? What'll that do? That would set us up, as long as the 4 hour keeps going up, right? That would set us up with some good space on the daily so that potentially the next move down on the daily will just be for a lower high, a higher low, and for a daily confirmed uptrend. That's what I'm looking for. One time frame at a time, hourly, 4 hour, daily. As you can see, RSI curling bullish now at this point. MACD now, gonna move to the side. MACD now wanting to come back up as well. So have sellers exhausted themselves? Remains to be seen, guys. 4 hour time frame is key here. How much space can the bulls put between this low is going to determine what is the most likely scenario. If they put in a lot of space, your most likely scenario then becomes a potential higher low, right? Which would also be a daily higher low for trend changes all around, guys. And that would be very significant for me, because then we would be targeting back around the 70 area and obviously pushing back into this area after for the gap fill on earnings. So semiconductors, we'll go over semiconductors relatively quickly. Semiconductors, guys, not too much to say, to be honest with you. We're kind of still just struggling at our resistance points on NVIDIA here. If you look at SMH as a whole, right, we had a very bullish week last week. Today, slightly red, but then slightly green in after hours, right? So we are struggling here with our resistance around 136, 137. That's going to be the next target for me. But at this point, guys, we've done a great job of confirming a further weekly uptrend, which was not what people were expecting for the most part, right? We gave back a lot of the move here. Technically, it should have just been a higher low that we were expecting, but with such bullish news last week coming from the semiconductor sector as a whole and from the markets, right? Big short squeezes last week, we were able to confirm a new, well, not new, just a continuation of our weekly uptrend at this point. So line in the sand level, guys, for me remains to be anything above 122 at this point is just a higher low. So hopefully if the bulls want to make a bull flag, we try to use this area of support at this point, right? Yellow line will be now our area of support. So we have big names like AMD. AMD's looking for it as well, right? AMD broke through, still looking bullish. But at a certain point, we're going to have to consolidate for potentially a weekly higher low. But for now, everything's looking good on AMD. Everything's looking good on TSM as well, as we kind of negated that weekly down move. This was pretty much, guys, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of down, all taken back in one candle. You love to see it. These are the types of candles that start setting new trends. Why? Because they create so much space. Look how much space this is now, guys. On TSM, anything above 83 now is a higher low. That's huge, right? So if I'm looking for an entry, I'm looking for potentially somewhere in these moving averages down here. There's a nice little gap here, and I will be looking at TSM to write some options in this area because my most likely scenario is higher low for continuation to the upside for the continuation of a weekly uptrend. So that's just the way I think, right? So semiconductors still relatively bullish. And the plays that I wanted to go over, sorry guys for the long videos, it's just I have so much to say sometimes. The plays that I'm looking for, guys, ASO. ASO is a beautiful company. As you can see, I'll show you a bit of their financials, right? They do pay a dividend, small dividend. Look at this price to earnings ratio, P ratio of 7. Their earnings per share per year is monstrous, right? So as you can see, guys, last year they had revenue of 6.4 billion. You can see what is their market cap? 4 billion, right? So it's over. Their price to sales pretty much is absolutely ridiculous. So this is very good, in my opinion, to find companies like this where they're generating more revenue on a per year basis than their entire market cap. They have very high earnings per share, which is extremely good. They are growing, and this company has done very good. It is in a giant monthly uptrend at this point. What I'm looking for is we need to set the monthly higher low. So we have some good, this is the yellow area here, the area I'm looking for potential of that monthly higher low being set. So either this month or look, the month is almost finished, guys, right? We only have a few trading days left in this month. So if this candle closes like this and we get another candle potentially in this, that would be enough for me, guys. 3 red candles down and then potentially bottom out in the support zone here and just looking for a new move higher after that. As you can see on the weekly now, it's been pretty much 5 weekly down weeks in a row, but no negative company specific news. The only reason that these dropped hard is kind of like Nike and because of Foot Locker, because of Foot Locker's earnings and guidance last week, which was absolutely terrible. So Nike is another one that I'm looking for on my radar. I'm targeting the 105 area to be writing some puts on. I love the stock. For me, Nike at 105 is kind of a no-brainer, right? We have some very, very big, this kind of ugly when I do that, sorry. Kind of some very, very big support down here in the 106, 105 range. So I'm looking for this range here to be writing some options in. If we go down to the lower time frames, guys, you'll see daily oversold on Nike, 4-hour oversold on Nike, and this is Nike, guys. This very rarely happens, and when it does, it tends to get bought up fairly quickly thereafter, right? So that's when I love looking for entrances into positions. These are 2 plays that I am taking this week. So I'm writing ASO 49 and 50 puts for Friday, and Nikes, I'll be honest with you guys, this morning I was able to write some 108s and some 107s for some good premium. So we'll see how those 2 trades do play out. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, as usual, consider liking, consider subscribing. It's Will here with another one. I will see you guys tomorrow, and I promise I will be doing shorter videos now. I know these daily market recaps are a bit longer, but I hope you guys enjoy them. If you do enjoy them, let me know down in the comments if you want me to only spend 20 seconds on a stock, resistance here, support there, without much of my input, without what I think is going to be happening on a technical basis, like higher highs, higher lows, stuff like that, right? So let me know, guys. I love you all. Hope you had a great day trading, and I'll see you tomorrow.